Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. Today we're going to go through some Bible stuff, particularly applying the Ten Commandments to Donald Trump. Okay, so I'm getting a lot of people that are leaving me because of the way I speak regarding Trump, which I think is fair the way I speak. But I'm going to go through the scriptures and apply them to what Trump is doing. And I'm not going to do Mosaic law. I'm going to do the Ten Commandments. I'm going to say the basic stuff, okay? Just the Ten Commandments, all right? And then you make your own decision as to if you think I'm picking on Trump, which a lot of people seem to think I'm doing. I'm not. I give Trump full credit for what he's doing on domestic policies, which are fantastic for the American economy, for the economy, period. But what he's doing in foreign affairs is leading America to a disaster, which is prophesied in Jeremiah 50:51 and Isaiah 47. And the people don't know that's where they're headed. I'm going to try to bring that in. I'm going to talk about China having sold advanced J-10 fighter planes to Egypt, and the first of them arrived already the other day, I think 4 days ago, which is why Egypt is rising up the way they're doing it. We're going to give you a breakdown about this jet, what it can do, what it can't do compared to Israeli and American jets, okay? We're going to talk about Lebanon, Nasrallah's funeral. We're going to talk about what Hamas is doing with the hostages and the dead body, and they did return the mother of the two dead children's body. First, they sent a body that was not hers, and then we analyzed it, and we found it wasn't. They sent another one last night. It's already been analyzed, and it was her, so she is dead. Although, anyway, and there's a hostage exchange coming later today in about 2 hours. And what Netanyahu and Trump are talking about doing, and what Hamas is doing, and we're going to get into all of this and try to figure out where we're headed, okay? Probably touch on the two witnesses again in Malachi 3 and 4 and Zechariah 12. Okay, so I'm going to go jump into the chat and the live stream. Make sure we got a live stream and sound and picture. Get my posts up, we'll get started. So that gives people a chance to come in. Make sure we got a live stream. I'm not going to talk much while I do the live stream. While I do the posts, which is quick. I might have had a typo, let me see. No, I get my email address up, and we'll get going. We got a few people coming in, more will come in. This is not going to be a topic that's going to attract a lot of people, but it's what the Lord told me to do. almost there. Okay, my posts are done. Do a little praise and we'll get going. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So, let me start with the Bible work and then we'll get into the current events. Okay. So I'm going to just do this direct. First, we're going to go to Jeremiah 17. This also appears in Psalms, but we'll work at it. Jeremiah 17, start in verse 5. Thus saith Jehovah. So this is Jehovah talking to Jeremiah. Cursed, now that word for cursed, Arar, it's pretty okay translation. Call it cursed, it's okay to say that. In man. So, cursed be the man that trusteth in man. Could also mean trust in the strong man. Let's analyze this a little deeper with the root. It means a mighty man, a valiant man, a warrior. Okay? It's sounding like Trump. Cursed be the man that trusted in, a powerful man, you could say, and maketh flesh his arm. Okay? It means trusting in flesh. And whose heart departed from Jehovah. Now, let's just stop here for a second. Trump, sworn in January 20th, puts his hand on a Bible, a real Bible, and then has an imam from the Islamic faith perform a blessing at his swearing in. Now, you got to be a living, breathing nincompoop to believe that just Trump is a man of God and trusteth in God. Right here, would you do that? Put your hand on a Bible, get sworn in, taking the Lord's name in vain, in other words, and then having a Muslim cleric do a blessing at the event you just got sworn in on using a Bible in the Lord's name. Would you do that? So I think we're at departeth from the Lord easily. For he shall be like the heath, that's like a juniper tree in the desert, all shriveled up and stuff, right? And shall not see when good cometh. Think about the appearing of the Son of Man in the clouds. And shall not see when good cometh. The word for good is tov. It means good. These translators don't even know it's tov. They say tob. You know, that's how bad translators are at Hebrew. They don't even know that, you know, but okay. And shall not see when good cometh, but shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness. Is that not what America is going to be looking like shortly? In a salt land, and not inhabited. It's perfect, Jeremiah 50:51. Blessed is the man that trusteth in Jehovah, and whose hope Jehovah is. He shall be as a tree planted by the waters, and spreadeth out her roots by the river. So that means plenty of water, nourishment, flourishing, and shall not see when heat cometh, but her leaf shall be green, and shall not be careful in the year of drought. Well, we're in a drought now, we're not very careful, but okay, anyway. Oh, there's no more rain coming tomorrow. That canceled. See, the early and latter rain is going to come right around when Yeshua appears in the clouds and we get into redemption. So the big rain, apocalyptic rain and its snowstorm prediction fell apart again. These people are not prophets. They're trying to be scientists, but God controls the weather. Shall not be careful in the year of drought, neither shall cease from yielding fruit. Okay? Now, let's go to the Ten Commandments. We'll use Exodus 20. And Elohim spake all these words, saying, I am Jehovah, which is really Ani Jehovah, I Jehovah, Elohim, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before thee. Well, Trump had another god before him. I'm not doing the conspiracy things with his New York penthouse looking like a Muslim shrine and murals on the ceiling of Zeus or whatever those phony gods are. No, I'm not even going there. Remember, Trump said, I have nothing to ask forgiveness for. So I never asked for forgiveness. Would you ever say that? Remember what Yeshua said? Either you're for me or against me. Trump's not for him. There's no middle ground. Trump's with the enemy. And people are welcoming this. My gosh. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, Ani, Jehovah Elohim, am a jealous God, visiting the lawlessness of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. Okay, now we're going to go through this real quick. we're going to talk about graven images of a disgusting, abominable nature in Washington, D.C. at government buildings. Okay? And I'm going to show you a picture of these buildings right out of Google. Or if Google took them away, I'll find another source. Let me see what's beeping here. I have no idea. On Shabbat, usually things are so quiet. Oh, these are coming out of America. Delivery notice. Anyway, let me get back. Let me try a different search. Hang on a minute. It's worthless. I'm trying to see if anybody built a conglomeration of these pictures so I don't have to keep doing searches for them. Oh, I'm not getting it. Okay, I'll have to do it the hard way. It was worth a try. What a bad image. I'm trying to find somewhat high resolution. Not so easy. I'm holding it right in my face. I can hardly see what these images are here. Here's one that might be good. This is the fountain at the United States Library of Congress, Washington, D.C., and this is the false god Neptune, right there. Trump taking these statues down? No. Are they abominable? 100%. Find you some more from that place. Oh, we got plenty I could show you. Don't worry. That's the same one. There's several of these graven images. I want to see if I can get them all to you. Hard to see. Well, here you can see Neptune, and there's another graven image on either side of him. This is the United States Library of Congress fountain. Is Trump taking these things down? He is not. I'll give you a few more just to make the point. Now you got to look at this a little carefully. This is the United States Supreme Court. I'm going to show you this is modeled after Greek and Roman pagan temples. Yes, these are pagan temples with the pillars, and that triangle up the top is called the Typhium. Inside the triangle are figures, three-dimensional graven images. I don't even know who these figures are, okay? I don't even know who they are. Is Trump changing that? No. Now, let's take a look at the White House and see if it's a Roman temple. And then I'll show you what a Roman temple looks like. Okay? Oh my, we have the Roman temple with the pillars, and we had the Typhium, the triangle at the top, minus the graven images. I guess they don't want to make it that obvious. How about that? All right, let's take a peek at the Roman temples, okay? Remember it says in Jeremiah 50:51, speaking of America, they are mad upon their idols. Oh yeah. This is the Roman temple of Bacchus. Please note the Typhium triangle thing on the top of the pillars. Looks like the White House of the Supreme Court to me. And let's take a look at the Temple of Augustus. My oh my, we got the pillars and the Typhium just like the White House and the Supreme Court. How about that? See how people go to sleep? They just don't understand. The thing that's scary now is they don't want to understand. They're so beaten down. They're so beaten down that they don't even, they just run away when you show them what's really going on. The Pantheon, like the White House and Supreme Court, pillars, Typhium. It doesn't go, it goes further than that though, okay? How many people walking the streets of the United States even know about these things? How many even care? They don't care. They don't care about cars. See if I can get a good image. I got one right here. This is the front of the New York Stock Exchange. It's a Roman and Greek temple. This is a monument to false gods, basically. There's the Tiffium with the graven image. This is the New York Stock Exchange. I worked there as a summer job in college as a page. This is on number 11 Wall Street. That's the address. I know exactly where it is. Okay? You know, this is how sick America is. Now, let me show you a Greek temple. Here's the Temple of Zeus. Just like the White House Supreme Court Stock Exchange. You got the pillars, the Tiffium with the graven images. There's the evil false god type things up there. Okay? The White House is a Greek Roman temple. It's a temple to worship Satan. The New York Stock Exchange is, look, if it was honest, they wouldn't have had it. They wouldn't have it. That's a temple to Satan. Let me give you another one. The state capitals are the same way. The city, you know, their predominant building in the cities, they're the same way. They're all this way. Let's go to, what was I going to do? I know what I was going to do. To show you the statue is also, the Statue of Liberty is also a temple to Satan. Let's get a good picture. There it is, a flat-chested woman. How about that? Is it a woman, a man? We don't know. There's your pillars. This doesn't have a Tiffium for some demonic reason they must have. This is a graven image idol to the demons, to Satan and the demons. That's the Statue of Liberty. Now, where else do we see the Statue of Liberty? I'll show you. Gotta find a good image with clarity and so forth. First, I'll show the old one from the old days, and you can see it's the Statue of Liberty. It's maybe a woman, maybe a man, flat-chested. There's the sun for Tammuz, the sun god, who you worship on Sunday. Sunday. Who moved the Sabbath to Sunday? That's Tammuz, the sun god. That's the sun behind it. So this is tied to the sun, God worship. Okay, that's Columbia Motion Pictures. But let me get you some better representations of this. Okay, they're there if I look for them enough. I think. Let me see. I'm trying to get some that show the pedestal this abomination is standing on. Well, it's hard to get it that good. Here's another one, Columbia. That's some goddess. Look at the sun. Come to the light. I hold the torch, the light. Come to me. I am the way. Like the Statue of Liberty. What do you think? The statue. But, you know, who are we talking about here? Here's another older image, Columbia Pictures. Did you understand yet that this woman's name is Columbia? Do you know what the capital of the United States is called? Washington, D.C. Washington, District of Columbia. The capital of the United States is named after this disgusting piece of crap, which is the Statue of Liberty, which is a heathen temple idol. Did I make my point? Maybe not. Maybe not. But we'll try one more. This particular abomination is standing on the roof of the United States Capitol building. Let me give you a close-up of this abominable thing. My, it's a flat-chested woman again. This is Columbia. This is the Statue of Liberty. So they give her a sword here. Does that change anything? I would think it changes nothing. What else can I show you? This is in Freedom Hill or something in the Capitol. There's your pillars. They're making a shrine out of this. You know, you can do this with people till you're blue in the face and nothing gets through. Trump's planning on sending out $5,000 stimulus checks to people. And he'll do it. Now, let me give you a look at the Capitol, and you can see the pillars all the way up to the abomination on the roof of it. It's a place of worship. It's a temple. Who's this woman? Well, No, in Revelation 17, she's referred to as the whore. The whore. W-H-O-R-E. Also known as a prostitute. The whore. Revelation 17. That's who's on the roof of the Capitol. That's in New York Harbor. That's who they named the capital of Washington, D.C. after. And let me cork it with one I mean, I could do 100 of these probably, or many. Anyway, at least 25 in D.C. alone, I guess. I don't know. It's many. I'm not giving you all of them. I gotta find the right one, which I will. There used to be a guy that had all these compiled, but of course Google took them down. They don't want them. Here's the George Washington National Masonic Monument, and look at the pillars, and look at the tibia, and more pillars. I believe this is in Washington, D.C. This is an abomination. They have other gods before the whole United States Capitol, all over the place. I'm trying to find one picture. Where is this? There's a picture of Washington, George Washington, as a Mason in one of the government buildings, and I can't find that. But there's lots of pictures of George Washington, the Mason. Here's one wearing the Masonic apron. Here's another one with the Mason's apron. Here's another one. And then let's look at the George Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. And everybody makes out that this guy was such a great dude. This is what it looks like, and this is a demonic idol. They have the same shape thing in the Vatican. This is another demonic idol. It's in the Vatican. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be there. Let's see if we could look inside the Washington Monument here with some pictures. Not much. Go back here. This is the Thomas Jefferson Monument. Notice the pillars in the Tiffium. Another demonic temple. Jefferson Monument. Or Jefferson Memorial, or whatever they call this stupid thing. This is the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. Notice the pillars as a Roman and Greek temple. Do you understand this yet? I mean, if you don't get this, I could keep going. I'm not going to keep going. But I mean, you should get it by now. Thing is, probably so few people are going to pay attention to this. So people just want to keep believing that Trump is doing such a great job. The fact that when Trump would take his private jet and fly from Washington, D.C. to Mar-a-Lago, he probably spent $60,000-$70,000 on fuel one way for his big passenger jet. That's his personal jet. Okay. And then he sends everybody a $5,000 stimulus check, which I believe he's going to do. And they're so excited. Trump will take a few of his friends out to lunch and drop $5,000 with the wines and all that. I mean, people are just so dumbed down. It's unbelievable. It's sad that few people are going to see this video, I'm afraid. You know, I don't know what I can tell you. I tried. I did what the Lord told me. How's Trump and the Panama Canal going? Pretty bad. They reinstated all the tariffs on the American warships. Trump's doing nothing. How's he doing with Ukraine and Russia? Some of Trump's staff meets with Putin. Everything goes well. They break up, and then Putin launches 150 drones on Ukraine right afterward. Sounds nice, huh? And then another cable was cut the last 2 days. Probably Russia. Maybe China. I don't know. How about Greenland, Canada, and Mexico being states of America? Gee, that's not working out. How about all hell to pay that Gaza's going to have if they don't release the hostages by 2 Saturdays ago or the previous Saturday, whatever it was? Never happened. Trump didn't do anything. All the threats on Iran, what's happened? Nothing. Nothing. Has Trump managed to build America a massive amount of enemies? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of countries are going to fight back against him and the tariffs. Was Trump wrong in putting these tariffs on? No, he was right. No. Trump's smart when it comes to business and economics. Okay. He's very fearful with international events, especially using force. He's scared to death. He just fired the general that was chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he got rid of or drove out another 5 of these characters in the military. He's getting rid of them. Remember I told you it would take Trump at least 3 months to 6 months to get control of the government. He's scared to death right now to do anything. They got to fire the Biden people because they don't trust them. And they got to put their own bosses in. Trump has to put his own bosses in. You know, you got to do the Air Force, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Army, the Marines. You got to change the CIA, National Security. You got to change the FBI, Homeland Security. You know, that's your minimum people you got to change. And when you can't just change the heads, that's your starting point. Then they got to change the department heads and the lesser bosses to their own people. Then they got to start weeding out the ones that are Biden and Obama diehards, and then they can start moving. Right now, they would just experience classified data leaks that could hurt American military because these morons would give it to the enemy. Do you see the problem? You got FBI agents suing Trump, a lot of them. He's got big trouble, and he's making threats that he can't fulfill. He's writing checks he can't cash. And the people don't see this. He's failing. Now, some of you might say, but Trump is using the military on the Mexico border. He is. There's no secret plans there. The people in the Bidens, people were trying to destroy America. What do you think they were doing? They're with the beast. Trump's with the whore. Okay? Revelation 17 and 18. That's what it is. So what's the risk with putting the soldiers there? People in Mexico could just put up binoculars and see everything. There's no secret information to leak. It's an open book. But the Biden people would leak the information, causing a lot of death to come to American soldiers to try to impeach Trump. You think that's impossible? I don't. I think it's likely. So they got to change all this. Trump's in a very impossible position. When he was running for election, he said there's 10 million to 30 million illegals in the United States. I believe him. Some people went higher than 30 million. Okay? The guy that was running Texas, I think he was the number 2 man for ICE, he said 60% are military-aged males coming by themselves with no family. That's a sleeper agent. 60%. China has roughly up to 350 acres of land adjacent next to major American military bases. Did we ever get to the bottom line on the drones? The end story was the FAA said they gave permission for the drones to fly. Senators, congressmen, FBI, Biden, who the heck else knows? Border Patrol, police department said that we don't know what's going on. You think they never called the FAA? How could you be that silly? Of course they were calling the FAA. The FAA was telling them we don't know what was going on. You think the senators and the congressmen, the FAA guys, going to lie to them? Lie to big shots in the FBI? They knew. They stopped because Trump was going to shoot him down. Biden was probably in on it. He didn't shoot him down. I don't know what he was doing. Maybe not. Maybe yes. Now, the latest one is they're revealing what happened with Kennedy getting killed, Martin Luther King getting killed, I think Robert Kennedy getting killed, the Attorney General that got killed. I don't know who else. The woman says she's got one of Trump's people, I don't know, the Attorney General or something, says she got the files on her desk and she's going to reveal them. She's putting it together. Well, she's editing it is what she's doing. Okay? You want to reveal it, just put it on a photocopy. The Kennedy thing goes back to 1967. So, who do you think killed Kennedy? What was one of the later things Kennedy did? Oh, I'll tell you. Kennedy was making money that was not Federal Reserve notes. Now I'm thinking about it, Trump might reveal this. In other words, it was called the United States note. And he was not going to be buying or borrowing money from the Federal Reserve. He was just minting his own money. Not paying the Federal Reserve. He actually printed these things. Okay? Yeah, they killed him. Who probably did it? Hoover. Do you know J. Edgar Hoover was of an LGBT persuasion? Okay? Yes. And the number two guy in the FBI was his partner. Yes, yes. I think the headquarters of the FBI is called the J. Edgar Hoover Building. I'm not sure. I think it is. But anyway, yeah, there were a bunch of Satanists in the FBI. Okay? Now, J. Edgar Hoover and his buddy, who was an FBI agent and assistant director, this guy had no background or anything. He was his mate. It just was a joke. It was a mockery. But so many people knew this. He used to go to parties and drag J. Edgar. Okay, but let's go. These two clowns, you could see pictures of them. They used to go to the racetrack all the time. That was their hobby. Remember I told you that if they couldn't cheat at it, anything involving betting, if they couldn't cheat at it, they wouldn't have it. Okay? So that's why you have horse racing, and that's why you have casinos and card parlors and stuff like that. If they couldn't cheat at it, they don't have it. And they have horse racing. And they used to go bet the horses. Now, how do you think the Mafia paid them back for favors? At the track, the racetrack. Bet on, Screaming Eagle Horse in the third race. Puts down money on the third race, and there you have it. Is that hard to understand? I don't think so. I mean, it's likely the way you did it. That's totally explainable money. Do you think he ever declared his winnings on his income tax form and paid tax on it? I don't think so. I don't think so. Who would audit J. Edgar Hoover? The other person that might have killed Kennedy is the second theory. Now, Trump may actually reveal it was the Federal Reserve that got him killed because he wants to get rid of the Federal Reserve. That might turn into a reality. It likely was the Federal Reserve. The second possibility was the Mafia because they were vested deep into Cuba. They had a lot of gambling casinos, hotels, resorts, nightclubs, drugs, prostitution, all the stuff they do, right? And Castro came into power, and Kennedy never did it. He did the Bay of Pigs, but maybe he just did a token thing. I don't know what the deal was, but they were not happy about what happened. They probably wanted Kennedy, after the Bay of Pigs, to take 60, 70,000 soldiers and just invade the place. It would have taken a week and, give it back to the people. And the people would have their gambling casinos back. Maybe Kennedy saw how evil it was because they were using the people in Cuba to work in the fields, make the cigars, make the rum, make the sugar, the other crops, and then they'd work in the hotels as bartenders, busboys, maids in the hotel, waitresses, prostitutes, blackjack dealers, roulette wheel operators, croupiers at the blackjack table. Oh, and they had racetracks and all kinds of, I think they raced dogs and horses. I think they raced the dogs and stuff like that. I went to college with a girl. She lived down the hall from me. About 3 apartments in the building, and her father was a judge in Cuba under Batista, the bad one. Although Castro was a worse one than Batista. And she had to leave Cuba, and she was Jewish, and she really liked me for some reason, and I didn't, particularly find her that attractive as a friend. She was a nice friend. She worked as a stewardess for some years, so she was older than me. And some Jewish girls that grow up, they have to marry a Jewish guy because it's ingrained in them, and it's rather biblical in a way. Yes, it is. Although she wouldn't know if she's getting the same tribe per se, and that's probably what was behind it. She finally saw, oh, I got this Jewish guy. He's going to college. I was not interested. I didn't know the Lord. I wasn't interested. She didn't know the Lord either. So, but she was a really nice person. And she told me some things about it, like the way they lived down there. As her father was a judge, Batista was as crooked as a dog's hind leg. People at Cuba had no chance. The Mafia might have paid Kennedy to get rid of Castro, and he tried the Bay of Pigs invasion, and it failed. And they might have gave him $4 or $5 million back then. It was a lot of money, and he didn't deliver, and they could have got him knocked off. It's not. Back then, it wasn't very hard to kill a president. The security before Kennedy got killed was really rather loose. There weren't very many Secret Service agents. It wasn't very high tech back then. They had a few armored cars. They had an Air Force One plane. They had the White House. They kept a good amount of Secret Service guys around the White House, and they had some military rifles. Back then had BARs, and that's like a 30 caliber military rifle that goes as a machine gun, and I believe they had some Browning 45 caliber submachine gun with the round drum clip. They didn't have anything that sophisticated. And they had, back then, I believe they were running 38 special revolvers. It was low key. It was low key. And, right after when I was into cars, right after I was reading a story about a guy. It was, I think, in the 50s. He was in Washington, D.C., and they had these cars like MG and Triumph had them, where you had a convertible, you would call it a convertible. These were little two-seat sports cars. And when you wanted to put your top up, what you did is you had to stop the car, because you couldn't reach back and pull it up. You could reach back and touch it, but it wasn't the way you might think it was. They had the struts for the convertible, okay? So you pull the struts up, and then, if you were smart, you had in your trunk the canvas cover, which was relatively waterproof. And it had the cover had holes in it with a metal plate around it, and it had little protrusion bumps in the body, and you'd put the cover in there, and then I think you rotated the bumps at 6 turns so they wouldn't pop off. So it took you about, close to 10 minutes to put this thing on. And then you had to put your side curtains on because you had no windows. My Triumph had a very low door. At a traffic light, you could put the palm of your hand on the concrete in the road, and they would, these were plastic things that you stuck in the door, and you had a way of attaching them, and they had a slider. They were plastic windows, and you had to get those in, and then you could drive them in. So some guy says he had to put his top on in one of these cars. It was an MG or a Triumph or something, or it could have been an Austin Healey. And he said he was driving around Washington, D.C., and he just drove into the White House. And he said there was a a big area where they had a big edifice, so a big piece of the building over it, covering it, which a lot of mansions have, and you could pull up in there and get out in the rain and you'd be dry and then walk into the house. So the White House has one of these things. So he said he just pulled in, nobody stopped him. He went right by the entrance to the White House. He parked his car. He get out and he put his top on for several minutes and then drove off. Nobody even talked to him. That's how the security used to be for the President of the United States. It was pretty low key, you know. The Secret Service was in charge of the security, but because he's the commander and chief of the military, a lot of military intelligence, which would have been Army Counterintelligence Corps, Naval Intelligence Service, when it was appropriate, like they were going to be down by the water somewhere or something, or with a boat. The Air Force has intelligence, but they wouldn't get involved unless it was something to do with the airports of the Air Force or the planes. Coast Guard back then didn't have intelligence, and the Marines back then didn't have intelligence. So it was mostly the Army. So a lot of them would bodyguard the president and the vice president when he was appearing in public. When things were quiet and he was in the White House, he was in the Capitol, he was in the Senate, he was seeing congressmen and senators, the military, the Secret Service. But when he was, let's say, going to go to a parade in Kansas City for some celebration, then they pull the military in. So these were plainclothes guys with a badge and a gun and credentials, and they had some training in this, and they would work the crowd. And then, I think today that still goes on to a lesser extent, And they also use the police to help, the local police. So anyway, I think we'll be getting a whitewash on what happened to Kenny. They're going to talk a lot about the bullet trajectory, the rifle, where it was fired from, how his injuries were, when he was declared dead, all of this. But in terms of telling you who did it, unless he tells us the Federal Reserve did it, I don't believe anything. We'll see what happens. And then RFK, the Attorney General, I don't know much about what happened with him either. I don't know. But he was making war on the Mafia, going after Jimmy Hoffa and the mob. And see, they had us believing, well, a lot of people still do, they had some Italian or Sicilian fellow that would operate in Little Italy in New York City, and they were calling him the Mafia. And they're calling bootleggers the Mafia. And back then, in the 30s, the 20s, yeah, the bootleggers were the Mafia. But, where is the Mafia today? Well, who do you think owns the big gambling casinos in Atlantic City and Las Vegas and Reno and Lake Tahoe? And it's them. They have billion-dollar investments. They're not some jerk running around in Little Italy, New York, making phone calls from payphones in the street. Well, they don't have them anymore, but having a handful of people to work for them, doing loan sharking, betting. That's not the Mafia. That's the street guys. They made movies about this, what they called one. I don't remember. Robert De Niro was in it. And, well, they were basically showing you a bunch of thugs in Queens that robbed the cash from that airline. They got $3 million or $6 million in the 60s. And, they were doing arson, loan sharking, bookmaking, and stuff like that. And they make out to you that this is the mafia. Well, the mafia owns massive companies. Okay, they've taken companies over. How do they get their company over? Well, the president or the vice president or the chairman of the board is a pervert and likes prostitution. So that's how they get their hooks in them. There's not very many prostitutes in the world that operate freelance, okay? That is a rare thing because there are pimps, and pimps are demented individuals and they're violent against women. They're not going to be too quick to fight against somebody that's going to fight back, although some of them are pretty gutsy. Most of them are just goofballs, but they are violent. And they will fight others. And if the woman starts operating herself, they just say, no, you work for me. You don't know I don't work for you. Boom. You work for me. Boom. Boom. Oh, okay, I work for you. That's it. And it takes control of her life, and maybe she gets, a third of the money, or maybe 10%, or whatever. He's taking the money. She comes home from work, she doesn't have a good amount of money, he clobbers her again. These are sick people. Okay? These are sick people. They really are. And they turn these young girls out in the street, and they troll in an area that's known for prostitutes. Well, she can't troll there unless she's protected by a pimp or an organization. Because if she's protected by a pimp with an organization or a gang of guys, and he runs, 10 girls or something like that, and somebody bothers this girl, they'll go after the guy. They'll stab him with a baseball bat, shoot him, knock his teeth out, beat up his girls, drive by like they're looking like customers, and his girls get in the car and then they punch the teeth out, they get even. Pimps don't like fighting with each other, It's not good for business. But, let's talk about the ones that work with the madams. Okay, the call girls, they get, probably $5,000. At least that's what Trump was paying. Remember him and the prostitutes, paying the prostitutes, right? Great man of God, I can tell you. Remember his spouse, Melania, showing up doing full body nudes in porno magazines, and he says, no, I'm not going to apologize. She's beautiful, isn't she? People think that's okay. He marries a prostitute. Not repentant. I was saying, God forgave me. I found God. I'd never do that again. None of that. Nothing. How many wives did he divorce? I lost count. Okay? So, you can't just go to some high-ranking prostitute service that the elite use and say, hi, I need money and I'm a good-looking girl and I need to get some work. Could I work for you as a whore? How are you going to even find these people, right? So she's got to work her way up. So how would she work her way up? Maybe she starts in Vegas or Atlantic City with the casinos. And that's a little bit on the safe side for them because they're working in the casinos. They're not going out of the casino. And the people in the casino are keeping tabs on them. Now, they could get put in a room with some sicko who decides he wants to hurt her. And, he could even force her down on the bed and inject her with a sedative or something. It's a dangerous job, but it's probably, 25 times safer than working out in the street. These things probably don't happen very often or at all because the guy's probably going to get caught. They'd probably keep an eye on him, and if he's going to walk out of the hotel room before she gets out, he ain't going to get out of the hotel. But these are people paying hundreds of dollars for prostitutes, not $5,000. They might be paying 300, 600, 500. They're not paying big money. So, you know, they're not freelancing, okay? Now, there are some stupid girls that do things on the internet. They auction off their virginity. You know, this is how far America's been fallen. College girls would go on these sites. A few years ago, I read about it. They'd auction their virginity off to some guy. These people would pay tens of thousands of dollars. They were working their way through college. These were demented women who had no idea what their life would be like when they lowered themselves to this level, you know. And, you know, it's a basic horrible life. I don't believe that there are many prostitutes running around that don't use drugs or alcohol. I mean, probably none. You know, it's such a horrible thing to do, you know, but there could be some, but they can't get into it themselves. They got to start somewhere. Then they got to make connections to get referred and work their way up. And the ones that get the big money, the 5,000 or more a night, they are generally not just physically attractive. They're got an ability to be social with these people, and these idiots hire them for, you know, let's say the guy's saying he's going to a business trip. He lives in New York. He's taking a business trip to Idaho during the winter. He's meeting some people at a ski resort. They're going to ski and try to make a business deal. So you're going to be there for 4 days. So he hires one of these girls. He gives her $20,000, $30,000, and she comes with him. And he uses her as the showpiece. Hey, look at my beautiful girlfriend. And, you know, people do this. They got incomes of a few $1 million a month. Some have 10 million a month, 20 million a month. They don't care. It's nothing to them, you know. But anyway, so Trump is failing on the international scene, and he's scared, and he's afraid of the sleeper agents. Now, Trump is probably got all 4 years ahead of him of deporting illegals, and there's still going to probably be half of them left. If he got 15 million out in 4 years, it's basically 4 million a year. That's pretty darn good. But it's so massive. How's he going to do it? And the ones he's getting are really probably very rarely sleeper agents, because he's going to sanctuary cities. The sleeper agents aren't in sanctuary cities just walking around the street in a neighborhood full of illegals waiting to get popped. They're hidden. They're not doing that. They got support system. Maybe they have phony ID. They're not doing stuff like that. So Trump's got a lot of problems, and that's why he's not doing anything on the foreign scene, but he's been trying to bluff and scare people since he got sworn in. And now they're hip to him, like Hamas said, your threats are worthless. And they defied him repeatedly. Nobody believes him. He's got a serious credibility issue in the international arena. And he could only overcome that by taking military action against somebody to show them that he's not just all talk. So the likely candidates for him to go after would be Iran, Gaza, and Yemen with the Houthis. And why would I say they're likely candidates? Because they can't really do anything to America per se. They can't do much. Now, we talked about Egypt the other day with 100,000 troops, predominantly in the Sinai Peninsula, but some by the border between Gaza and Egypt. Well, now it comes out that about 4 days ago, Egypt received its first shipment of Chinese JC-10 fighter jets. Now, I scoured the news and nobody knows how many they got. So they may have gotten 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or something like that. But they certainly didn't get any abundance. And I don't know when they'll get the next shipment. But they deviated from buying American F-16s. Because they don't trust America. So they bought these JC-10s, which are sort of advanced jets. They can shoot a missile. The F-16 would have a missile, I think it went 70 kilometers or something like that in distance. It was lower than 100 kilometers, and that's for a dogfight, plane to plane. Or plane to another target. And the F-16s that Israel used go 170 kilometers. So the Israelis can engage the F-16s, which were old versions that Egypt had, at a distance where they could pick the Egyptian jets off before they could even acquire the Israeli jet and fire at it because they'd be out of range. So these new ones enhance the range of the new jet. They can go up to 300 kilometers, I believe. So they can reach out and get some of these F-16s. But Israel has F-16Ss, which are kind of stealthy. They take the F-35 stealth bodywork, the stuff they put on the body on the fuselage of the plane, and they put it on F-16s. But the F-16 is not really all that stealthy because it's got stuff hanging under its wings and fuselage, like fuel tanks, weapons, rockets, missiles, all kinds of stuff, bombs, you know. But Israel has F-35s. I think we're probably in someplace between 35 and 50 of those. And the JC-10 aircraft that Egypt picked up is worthless against the F-35. The F-35 has long-range missiles, it's stealth. The Egyptians would not be able to determine where the F-35 is. They would know within 25 miles or not even at all. So they might not even know the F-35's out there, and then it fires a missile at the Egyptian jet, takes it down, they don't even know what happened. Now, their radar would pick up an incoming missile, and they would try jamming it, putting, flares out, aluminum flares, to try to drag the missile away from the true target. It probably wouldn't work on Israel's missiles. And down goes the plane. Then we have F-15s, which are a little bit advanced, but not stealthy. They're reasonably advanced. So the package would probably be F-16s and F-35s. A cluster of each would take out Egypt using Chinese aircraft against us, or whatever. But this is another reason why Egypt went into the Sinai Peninsula, because they were emboldened or built up like Tarzan. They got a few of these new jets, but they're no great shakes, believe me. They're not stealth, they're not that good. They got some good radar, they can reach out, and this kind of thing. Um, hang on a minute. Let me get my notes out. Let's talk about I think you'll find this interesting, the new drone aircraft carriers, especially the one Iran just built. Elon Musk did an 8-minute video talking about this a few days ago. And why was Musk talking about it? Because he's beating a war drum to attack Iran, either Israel or America or both or other countries, whatever. But this was built to attack on Iran. So he was presenting this Iranian aircraft carrier as if it was something really effective. And let's have a breakdown of this. Okay, the boat's around 600 feet long. It's a transportation ship, a container ship, you might even say, that's been converted into a drone aircraft carrier. Okay. It can hold 60 substantial drones that are not one-way drones, they're two-way. They fly to the target, they drop or shoot their ordnance, and they bring them back home and save them for another day. I don't think they could launch 60 of these very quickly. It has a runway. The drone goes down a runway and then takes off in the air. I believe the runway has a ramp going up as well. I think. I saw a picture and I'm not entirely certain that was a new Iranian drone carrier, but I think it was. So maybe in an hour they'd get 20 of these things off, which is enough to form a small swarm. Okay, the thing's got radar, but being a ship and being an Iranian ship, it's not going to have much long-range good radar. It's going to have enough radar to fight other ships or attack the ground from close and stuff like that. Okay. The drones could go pretty far. I would estimate they could get the drones out anywhere from, up to maybe 900, maybe 900,000 miles even. But drones don't go fast. Drones don't go like a cruise missile is considered slow. It goes 550 miles an hour. A drone is probably going to click at about 150. 100. They don't go fast. So they're slow movers. So if you've got good radar and you pick them up on radar, you get a good lock on them and you bring them down when they come by your airspace. These boats can also launch long-range missiles off the drone carrier, but not having great big ground-based radar, they're probably gonna have to strike with, I would say, 100, maybe 160 or 180 miles or something like that. They're not going to be able to reach very far. Okay? Because they're going to lose their radar. Right? It's enough to create damage. The drone carrier can also hold helicopters. I'm not sure how many. We could probably assume 6 to 10, 12 maybe. They could have attack helicopters. Iran having any sophisticated helicopters, I doubt they have. Or maybe they got a couple, but they don't have anything like an Apache or any of that stuff, you know. But it could be, you know, dangerous if you want to attack a ship. They could attack from the air with the helicopter as well. Helicopters are rather easy to shoot down, so they have to stay distant. So they probably mounted some sort of missile or rocket pods on the helicopters. Okay. The drone carrier can hold enough fuel to cover 22,000 miles without refueling. That means it could float around in the Mediterranean or the Persian Gulf for almost about a year, as long as it doesn't try to move around at high speed. But the sailors have to eat and have water to drink. I doubt that the Iranians have anything on there that takes seawater and makes it into drinking water, but maybe they do. But they probably have to bring water on board. So they have to, you can't keep, you know, food on. American nuclear subs run with 90 days worth of food. That's a sub. And these are bigger than subs. So maybe they got 6 months worth of food, but that's even a push, I think, you know. So they've got some features and benefits. And Musk was talking like it's a scary thing. Now we know other countries are doing it too, because this is a fraction of the price of an aircraft carrier. An aircraft carrier is a phenomenally complicated vessel. Okay, very expensive. So a lot of countries that could afford them don't want them because it's too much money in one boat. And these boats are highly vulnerable. So now comes the drone carrier. What's the purpose of an aircraft carrier is basically to bring your sophisticated fighter planes to a theater so it can fly off the aircraft carrier, strike targets, and return. Well, the drones do that, except that the drones are so easy to kill, you know, you're not going to get anything regarding a good return buying those. So, I'm trying to figure out where to go from here. I believe Elon Musk is creating fear in the people about these drone carriers. And that's because they're thinking about attacking Iran, which in their minds could be down the road several months, who knows? Or they're more than likely planning on having Israel do it, which is what I think they're going after. Prayer requests I forgot about. MF, Mike Foxtrot, MF, Mike Foxtrot. Pray for a family visit to go well. For Mike Foxtrot, pray for a family visit to go well. Someone is requesting we toss the people attending the Mardi Gras parades. Toss the people attending the Mardi Gras parades and the organizers. Okay. Someone else is requesting that we pray that Jehovah protects his elect all over the world from their enemies, and we give them peace, rest, joy, and Jehovah conducts recompenses on the enemies. So we pray for all the elect around the world for peace, rest, joy, protection, and Jehovah pays back or recompenses their enemies. Now, the thing with these drone launchers is if Iran has like 5 of them or maybe even 3 of them at the same time, and they come at a country from the water, they could go at the country at a pretty decent distance, and they now have 60 times 3. They got 180 drones, maybe 30 helicopters, maybe combined 40 or 50 missiles. They could put quite a good swarm attack on the country with missiles and drones. Now we need to talk about Trump and Elon Musk investigating the gold at Fort Knox and the likelihood of revaluing gold in the United States and what that would look like and what that would mean for people. I'll be right back.
Pot roast, I know you don't like that.
So why is it taking so long to audit Fort Knox? I don't have a great answer for that. I think they just assemble a team of maybe 10 or 12 people. They show up at Fort Knox with Trump's order. Fort Knox is a military base. Trump is the commander-in-chief in the military. They gotta let him in. They go to Fort Knox and they start counting. And they take films of it. Then what else do they need to do? Well, people are saying that these gold bars may not be gold. They could be wood sprayed with gold paint. They could be non-precious metals like lead covered with, 10 coats of gold, which is maybe a 64th of an inch thick, you know. So they'd have to randomly run around and select gold bars, probably get 200 or 300 gold bars taken out, and bring them someplace and have them analyzed. Just spot take them. From the top, from the bottom, from the back, from the front, from here, from up high, from up low, Send them in for a lab analysis to make sure they're really gold. You don't have to analyze every bar. If you take 100 bars or 200 or 50 or 8, you're gonna hit a bad one. If you hit a bad one, then you gotta go back and analyze, a ton of them or all of them. Okay. Now they may show up and the gold vaults are empty. What happens then? I don't know. I don't know. It's unprecedented. We don't have a historic model. I imagine initially the value of the US dollar would decline. Okay. Not horrendously, it may go down 5%, 3%, nothing great, nothing, a little bit. It wouldn't be that big a deal or anything like that. Trump could overcome that. I think Trump knows the gold is there because he's not highly interested in telling the people the gold's not there, watching the dollar drop. The dollar could even drop 7 or 9 or 10% from that. It could go down. He'd build it back up, but it may take months. So he's not looking for that. So I think he had his people know there's gold there. Now, this is the interesting thing about the gold. I got the figures. In 1973, all the gold held amounted to a value of $11 billion because starting in 1973 to today, they're valuing the Fort Knox gold at the price of gold in 1973, which was $42 an ounce. Now, when I was a kid, gold was $35 an ounce. I remember once I wanted an ID bracelet. They're like this thing I got now, but this has the Shema on it in Hebrew. But it's on there in Hebrew, and it's on the other side too. But it was, it was sterling silver bracelet with a solid slab, and they'd put your name on it, and all the kids were having them back then. And the girls were getting them in gold on their ankle with a little solid piece like that. They called it an ankle bracelet. And, they cost a little bit more. I think my mother spent $5. She got me a pretty big silver ID bracelet. She didn't bat an eye. Yeah, I'll get you one. Now, when I got bar mitzvah, they got me a 14-karat gold ring with a diamond chip in the corner with my initials on it. And the thing was probably a fraction of an ounce. I still have it. So that didn't cost much money. But anyway, in 73, they valued the gold at $42. Now, what I think Trump and Elon Musk got in mind is not an overly brilliant idea, but it's going to push the American dollar up. Maybe 3, 4, 5, or 10%. 10% is a bit of a stretch. 5% is more realistic, or maybe a little more. I don't know. here's how they'll do it. Today, gold's trading at what? Let's take a look. Let's take a look. Kitco Precious Metals, KITCO, precious metal price. You got to put in. They just display the stuff to you without you having to listen to their sales pitches to invest in something. Okay, it comes up with a chart. So it's trading at $29.35 silver right now, and gold $2,935.30, and silver is trading at $32.44. So I don't know if Trump and Musk would value the gold at $2,500 to be safe, or because gold fluctuates, but it hasn't gone below $2,500 in quite a while. Or they might value it at $3,000, just make manipulations in the market, bump it up a few bucks, and say, well, we'll value it at $3,000. This is not a real meaningful figure that's going to do anything. All the gold in the world today would fit into 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. I don't know. Maybe you're right. I don't know. It seems that it would be greater than that, but I really don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know. You got me on that one. I can't answer. I'm ill prepared. So this is the plan, likely what they'll come up with. Okay. So if they value the gold, I use the figure at $2,500 an ounce. That would make the gold in Fort Knox go from $42, well, from $11 billion to $660 billion. If they use $3,000, it'd probably go to 780, well, probably 800 billion or something like that. Okay, and that will bump up the value of the dollar. It'll make people feel better because Trump could wave the flag. Gold's really here, stuff like that. I think if the gold was not there, Trump would investigate it first. He's not an idiot. And realize that he's got another problem he's got to deal with and not talk about it. And that's basically the way Biden dealt with it, right? So that's what I think Trump's up to. So will that help the economy? Yeah, not major, but it's going to add to it. There's one other thing here we want to cover. Let's talk about if Israel had taken over Lebanon and Syria from past wars and got the oil from Lebanon and Syria, maybe even Jordan in the past. We had some oil in the Sinai Peninsula, but not that much, but we had some. It was nice while Israel had it, but they gave it back in the Jimmy Carter days. So Israel would have had all this oil income. I'm just hypothetically trying to make a point. They would have had all this oil income, right? What would they do with this oil income? Well, I'll tell you what Israel would look like today if they had that oil income. Instead of having maybe 8 warships, we'd have 20. We'd have 2 aircraft carriers. Instead of having like 300, 350 fighter jets, we'd have 1,000 or 1,200, right? We'd have all sorts of fortified bases and underground airstrips, and we'd have a huge inventory of missiles, okay? And yes, Israel would improve the highways. They would make them broader, wider, more interstate type highways around the country. I don't know. Today I feel like dragging. I think I got up too early. I feel sleepy. I don't know, but I'm okay. Drinking my coffee, but I feel like you know. Before I was feeling like I was dozing off or something. I don't know what I did, but anyway, maybe I did for a minute. I don't know. I think I did. Sorry about that. So would Israel be in the mess it is today with the Zechariah 12 siege surrounding it? No. They'd be scared to death of us. They'd never surround us. We'd have too much aircraft, too much Navy ships, too many missiles, too many planes. We'd probably have 2,500 tanks. We'd be paying the militaries very, very high salaries, and people in Israel would just love to go join the military. You got to remember, when you're in the Israeli military, you're not stationed far from home. The worst you could be from your house, the absolute worst, which is near impossible, would be 6 hours. Normally, you'd be 2, 3 hours or an hour or two from your house. You could go home for the weekend. I mean, it's not like, where you're going to join America, they're going to put you in Germany, and you go home every year. Yeah, it's not like that. So people would join the military freely, right? And, it would be a whole different country. It would be the dominant power in the Middle East. It probably would ignore America. It wouldn't have much to do with it. It would try to be friendly because all the Jews living there, but it wouldn't be listening to America. And it wouldn't listen to Russia or Iran or it would be a completely different country. So that's one of the reasons I would say why God kept Israel from getting wealthy. I mean, seriously wealthy. Okay, because it just would have turned into a mean fighting machine. And it's tough enough now, but if it had an extra, 25 billion a year to spend on military, and that happened for 20 years, I mean, Israel would have a military you wouldn't believe. We'd be making our own fighter jets, making our own missiles, making our own this, our own that. It wouldn't be what God's plan is. Okay, so that's something that I was contemplating, and I think it was, it's at least interesting anyway. Now I want to go back to the Ten Commandments because I sort of got deviated with Trump and the pictures, but I want to go back to the Ten Commandments and show you other things about Trump. Okay. Thou shalt have no other gods before thee, before me. Well, it says before. It doesn't have the word me in the text. Now, before, let's break the Hebrew down on that. In front of your face is what it really means. In front of your face. Face or your eyes? Face. In front of your face. Okay. That doesn't lend itself to English so well. Before is sort of okay. but it doesn't say before me. It would really be saying before you. Okay. Thou shalt, so they're twisting the meaning. Okay. They don't understand Hebrew. That's probably why. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of, okay, we covered that rather thoroughly. I am a jealous God, visiting the lawlessness of the fathers unto the children, upon the children until the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Now, when God says, just wanted to bring this up. It occurred to me the other day. I should elaborate this. Matthew 5:17. It says, "Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets." We know who the prophets are. And let's take a look at what the word is for the law. It's Strong's number in the Greek 3551. And it means, according to Strong's, what? I'm having trouble believing what this word really means. Let's see. I don't know much about Greek. By the observance of which is approved of God, a precept or injunction, rule of action. Okay. It doesn't say Moses' law in the New Testament, because Yeshua changed Moses' law. One easy way was the adultery. You couldn't just hand your wife a get, which is a Jewish bill of divorce. I hereby divorce you, get lost. No, it had to be for adultery, or Paul said if your wife leaves you or something like that, if you don't divorce her, or you don't divorce him if they're pleased to dwell with you. Okay, so he changed that, right? But what about the law of the next temple in Ezekiel 43? There's a law of the temple. Moses didn't quote any law for Ezekiel's temple. He didn't ever mention Ezekiel's temple. What about New Jerusalem? He never even mentioned New Jerusalem. Never. Okay. What about apostles? That's not in Moses' law. Where? It's not there. They didn't have the concept of an apostle. What about everybody that's a believer receiving the Holy Spirit? Moses didn't know from that, because the only ones that got the Holy Spirit were the prophets, right? The high priest and the kings. Moses' law revolved around a high priest. Yeshua changed that, and it shifted to the line of David. David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne, which Yeshua is from the line of David. So that changed. The Urim and the Thummim that the high priest wore, that's not happening anymore. The getting cleansed with the ashes of the red heifer put in water, that doesn't happen anymore. Jehovah, you read the prophecy, I've covered that with you, he cleanses it. He cleanses us. We don't need the red heifer and the water and all of that. And we don't even build the next temple that comes down from heaven. I've covered that many times using Ezekiel 37, the last 3 verses, when you read it carefully. And now we're going to have a temple and a tabernacle together again, back to Ezekiel 37. They didn't have the congregations like we did under Yeshua's time. There was no demon tossing. Did Moses have a law of demon tossing? No. Yeshua brought in demon tossing. We didn't have the dominion, the power of the unclean spirit, so we do in Yeshua with Moses. So many, many things changed. back in Malachi, I think it's 4. I think, let me see. Malachi 4, remember you the law of Moses. So that word for law is Torah, and then the word for Moses is Moshe. My servant, which I commanded to him in Horeb for all Israel with the statutes and the judgments. Now, this was given about 430 years before Yeshua appeared on earth. So what was he going to do? Say, follow the teachings of Yeshua? Yeshua knew the Lord changed. He changed it. We have apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, and evangelists. With Moses, were there evangelists? No. Were there pastors? Not really, no. Prophets, the 2 of them. Apostles, no. See how it changes? There weren't elders in the church. They didn't have the gifts of the Spirit. You understand? It's different today. It was different roughly 2,000 years ago. So Yeshua was saying, not one jot or tittle shall be done away with from the law, but he didn't say Moses' law. Again, back to Matthew 5:17, or 18 rather. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. But he doesn't use the term Moses' law. What about the scripture that says you're the temple, if you're filled with the Holy Spirit, a believer, you are the temple of the Holy Spirit. Moses didn't have that in the law. They weren't praying in tongues. They weren't interpreting the tongues. They weren't casting out devils, canceling witchcraft and sorcery. If 2 of you or more agree, it shall be done by my Father in heaven. Where 2 or more are gathered together, there I am in the midst of thee. This is not in Moses' law. Is it? Do you want me to keep going? I could stay here a long time. A lot of things changed. That's why Yeshua was saying the law. He changed the law. He was the Lord of the Sabbath. Well, 2, wasn't he? Yes. Yes. The law changed. There's that other change that is the controversial one, in Acts 10, that people don't like to hear about, but it involves the clean and unclean food. Yeshua said, don't call unclean what I made clean, showing Peter a picture of a sheep come down from heaven with unclean animals, not people. So if he was talking about cleaning the people, he would have had people. But he showed them the animals because he was saying to them, the unclean animals don't make the people unclean. Okay. I'm thinking about what else there was. Well, when we have Moses and Aaron, we didn't have the concept of the synagogues. That came later, but they just had the tabernacle. And they had the glory of God of Israel, which will be in Ezekiel's temple. So that's there also. But, you know, there's so many changes, but it's the law. It ever evolves as God changes Israel and the believers. The law changes also. Man and earth don't change the law. God changes the law. So the law, as Moses was teaching it, is very much changed from the time Yeshua came to earth. Okay? Very much. Very much. All right? So you got to remember that. Okay? But the law will not be done away with as long as there's a heaven and an earth. Okay? But it's not the same law that Moses preached. How can it be? It's way different in many, many, many areas. Okay? Very different. All right, back to Exodus. Thou shalt not take the name of Jehovah Elohim in vain, for Jehovah will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Now, would you swear an oath as President of the United States with your right hand on the Bible and then have a Muslim cleric do a blessing in the name of Allah, whoever the heck that is, on you or on America? Would you do that? Of course not. Does that imply directly taking the name of the Lord in vain? I would think so. You're mocking the Lord. Trump did that. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day, the Sabbath of Jehovah thy God, in it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son nor thy daughter, thy manservant, thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days Jehovah made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore Jehovah blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Now, could you change the day that Jehovah rested, that seventh day? How can you do it? It's in time past, it's over, it's set permanently. You can't change it. So how can the church change the Sabbath day to Sunday? They can't. It's impossible. It's a mockery on the people that listen to them and sit under them. They're making fun of you. Satan's making fun of these people that don't do the Sabbath on Saturday. They ignore the Sabbath anyway. Did Yeshua ever say ignore the Sabbath? Remember he said in Matthew 24, pray that your flight is not on the Sabbath? And that's projecting into the future, not at the time Yeshua was on earth. It's projecting into the future after he was resurrected from the dead. No, that's not been done away with. Sabbath is still in place. Does Trump follow it? Does he put America on the path of the Sabbath? Is he going to observe the Sabbath and have all the people in the White House not work on the Sabbath? What's he going to do? Tell the Secret Service agents to go home? The first Sabbath he did that, he'd be dead. You know, or you see the ridiculousness of people thinking Trump is a man of God. It's sheer absurdity. Um, would you do that if you were the president of the United States? Ignore the Sabbath? No, you fear God. He doesn't fear God. He fears the demons. Honor your father and your mother. Thy days may be long upon the land which Jehovah Elohim giveth thee. Well, that applies to honoring your father and mother when you're on the land of Israel, I suppose, but it would also apply in general. But I don't think Trump's guilty of breaking that publicly anyway. Thou shalt not kill. Okay. Presidents of the United States don't just arbitrarily put hits on people. Was the United States justified attacking Vietnam, who did nothing to the United States? How? Was the United States justifying Iraq, who wanted to rip off Kuwait, a pig dictator, abomination country, serving unclean spirits? Why was it America's business? You see what I'm saying? Thou shalt not steal. Well, I'm not going to comment on that one, but let's move on. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Well, we know he bore false witness in court cases because he submitted values for his real estate for his tax return at one value, and to get the financing, he put it at an inflated value. So he does bear false witness, but not against his neighbor. Not that I think it matters. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. I'm pretty sure Trump does that, but he probably has the best house out of his neighbors. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Well, I don't know what he does about stuff like that. And all people saw the okay, so it's just so sad that people are looking and turning to Trump for a rescue from their plight. Israel's doing the same thing. Israel's trusting in their military. And they're eating Trump up alive. They love it. They love this Trump. See, what they don't understand is Trump only in desperation is going to use the military right now because he's so scared about it. Because Biden's people and teachings and traditions are still in the military. It probably takes 6 months to clean it out. Now, he's at a point in time where I think Biden has to, where Trump has to use the military to show the world that he's serious. And like I told you, his three choices, he's not going to start with Russia or China or North Korea. That's going to be big, long, massive battles. You hit North Korea, China gets in, Japan gets in, South Korea. I mean, it's crazy. He doesn't want that. You hit Russia, you got NATO and the EU involved. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want that. So who can he hit? Mexico. He doesn't really have to hit Mexico. Will he attack the drug cartels in Mexico themselves? Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. How do you defend against Mexico? Well, you basically have troops on the border, ICE on the border. He's got that. You keep building the border fence. He's been doing that all month. Yeah, he can handle that. Is he going to attack Canada? Forget that. That's a trade war. Political tariffs. Greenland, not going to attack Greenland. You know what they would do if he attacked Greenland? They'd all come out and wave American flags and say, we're so glad you're here. Make us part of America. He doesn't, all he has to do is send a delegation of 10 people over there and ask them if they want to surrender to America and be an American state. And they'd all go out in the streets with American flags and it would be over. He wouldn't have to send one soldier. You're not going to attack Greenland. It's stupid. Why attack Greenland? It's idiotic. So, that's where I think Trump's headed. Iran is a bigger fish to fry than Gaza. Gaza's a sardine, and Iran is like a 25-foot fish or something. It's a much bigger fish to fry. The Houthis is, maybe like the size of a salmon, arm's length or something like that. But that'd be sticky. That's long procrastinated during a war. Gaza's not. Gaza's zippity doodah. Okay. And then you get a resort out of the deal, which is double tempting to him. He's not going to make a resort in Iran. He's not going to make a resort in Yemen. Lebanon, you can't really, in his mind, you can't really do that because you can't just kill all the people in Lebanon and take over their country like that. That's not what God says. That's what Trump says. God's going to give Lebanon a real beating. Lebanon used to be a gambling casino place, up until around 59. Lebanon has beautiful beaches, but it gets cold up there. So in the winter months, say from mid-November to the early days in March, maybe till March 10th or 15th, it's a little not that attractive for a beach area. So you have December, January, February. You have 4 months down, 8 months, you got a good beach resort run going on in Lebanon. And what about the 4 months? Lebanon has a lot of snow skiing on their mountains. So when you lose your, beach resort business, you transition over to the skiing. Now, in the hot months, they're not as hot as Israel. They're probably 10 degrees cooler. Or more maybe. So they're very attractive, and that'll be our lands very shortly. So it's cooler up there in the summer months. It's not as because it's quite a bit north of Israel. So you get cooler. The more north you go, the cooler you get. Okay, and the more snow you get in the winter. So they had beach resorts. So you can see pictures of them in Google. They got a lot of beaches there that are beautiful, like the Caribbean resorts. They're beautiful. The water is not where you're going to see down 10 feet, because it's the same water we have in Israel. It's Mediterranean. It's nicer than the Atlantic and Pacific, but it's not super nice like the Caribbean and stuff like that. So it's nice enough. And you got deep sea fishing there. Great beaches, it's really a nice place, So it thrived as a resort before it became Mohammedized, and they had casino resorts and all of that stuff. They're like Vegas resorts, maybe not as big, but you had a hotel with 2 or 3 buildings, and you had grounds with, you had volleyball, basketball, shuffleboard, or whatever they had there. Different swimming pools, you had a gym, you had dining rooms, you had restaurants, snack places, and you had a beach. You had launch chairs and cabanas on the beach, and all of that stuff. And they did very well there. They had alcohol freely in Lebanon back then. They had in the cities, they had sidewalk cafes. The women went to beauty parlors, did their hair. They wore skimpy, not that skimpy, but skimpy 2-piece bikinis. The men dressed like Europeans, the women did. They had movies from Europe, and they probably dubbed them. And they had the music from Europe, and stuff like that. And then Sharia law came, and it turned into a rat hole, which is what Sharia law normally does. Show me one country with Sharia law, serious Sharia law, that thrives. You can't. Saudi Arabia has it to some extent, not like Iran, but the regular people in Saudi Arabia don't thrive. They're oppressed. The king of Jordan, with all his palaces and yachts and all, he's oppressing the people. Oman, they're oppressing. Kuwait's oppressing. Who's not oppressing them? Syria's now doing Sharia law. They're oppressing. Iran oppresses the people. Gaza oppresses the people. Yemen oppresses. They always oppress the people. The people suffer. There's no Muslim majority country that really pushes Sharia law hard on the people that doesn't suffer. It doesn't exist. They all suffer. The education is down, the lifespan is down, the health of the people is horrible, the wealth of the people is terrible, and the people are beaten down and downtrodden, and that's the only life they know, schlepping around poor and depressed and taken advantage of, and all they can do is go out with the Allah Akbars and stuff, big deal, it's terrible. It's terrible, and they were trying to get Sharia law cranked up in America. There's some cities that have it. I haven't seen Trump move in and eliminate that yet, but I imagine he'll get around to it. So Trump is the most likely this Nebuchadnezzar in Jeremiah 50:51. It could have been Biden, but he's not there anymore. So we got Trump. And he is doing everything short of war to get many countries mad at him, including countries that were his allies. See, I don't think Trump believes the EU would come help America in a war. I think he's probably right. NATO, I think they would help, but they wouldn't put it all in. They would come up with some tokenism, but that would drag them into the war as a fighting ally of America, so they would be fighting the same war ultimately. They probably would, or most of them. Some of them would just punk out. There was one country the other day said, well, if we're going to put troops in Ukraine, I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. I can't afford the troops. It came up with some excuse. So probably other countries in NATO are going to say they're not going to do it. And the countries now are talking about fighting back against Trump with the tariff war and expecting to get Trump to stop it. Well, what this boils down to is, did Trump anticipate a large response back with tariffs at him, or did he think that the countries would just fall down and say, we'll drop our tariffs, drop yours? That's what I think he was going after, but he's not getting that. He's getting a tariff war. And he's making more and more countries madder at him because he's going to dig his feet in. And he's going to conduct a tariff war against them. And I'll bet you he does a very good job at it, but the people are not going to be happy about it. These people are going to be very upset with Trump. They already are. And Trump really didn't do a disservice to America or these other countries, because they were taking advantage of America with their tariff policy. So, Iraq had weapons. No, there are no real nukes. Go look it up. First thing, nobody's got them. Okay? It's just like they say they went to the moon. How did they get through the firmament? Genesis 1. That holds all the water back, like trillions and trillions of tons of water that the Lord opened up the windows of heaven to bring the water down on the earth with the Noah flood. Then he closed them. There's all water up there. It's not a vacuum. Okay? How do you travel in a vacuum? You burn fuel like they tell you with their rocket ships? How can the fuel combust without the oxygen, the air, the oxygen? How are you going to get through the firmament? They tell you satellites exist in space at 25,000 miles high. How are you going to get the satellite through the firmament? How? I don't know how. You can't. If you did, all the water would come down and we'd have Noah's flood all over again. They took pictures of people on the moon with the flag waving. If there was a vacuum, like they tell you, how the heck did the flag wave? Oh, it really wasn't a vacuum. Well, it's water. They lied. They made it in Hollywood. If they had nukes, they would have used them. What happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? They used aerial bombs like they did in Hamburg and Dresden a few weeks before. They exploded fuel above the surface a few hundred feet. It made a big fireball mess, okay? Which is what they just gave to Israel, these 11,000-ton bombs. The MK-84 is the same type of thing they had in Hiroshima, but more perfected, I'm sure. It explodes in the atmosphere with like a fuel thing. It makes a massive percussive wave for a mile, which knocks non-secure building and houses and vehicles over, and it probably creates a tremendous amount of heat and a shock wave. And that's the type of thing they were using in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The damage to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where the houses were treated paper and wood, is identical to what happened in Tokyo, which they'll tell you was not a hydrogen or nuclear bomb, whatever they called it back then, a hydrogen bomb. It was fire bombs in Tokyo. And if all these countries like Pakistan, China, Russia, North Korea, if they had nukes, they'd use them. If they had nukes, they'd give them to Iran. They'd say, here's 5 nukes. Tell Israel you got nukes, you better behave. Tell America you got nukes, you better behave. They're not going to do that because it's stupid. America knows nobody's got them. They're going to laugh at them. They'll say, oh, we just gave Israel 250 nukes and they'll out-nuke Iran. You know, it's just stupid. You can't believe what they tell you. He who loveth maketh a lie. They love this. They love this stuff. They get people all scared all the time. Fear makes your body fall apart. You get more acidic. You get more diseases. You get sick easier. Your pH goes down. It's no good for you. They create all this fear. People are worried about it. Do you really believe that if they had these nukes for about 80 years, right, they never would have used them? None of these crazy countries would have ever used them. How could you believe that? They use chemical and biological warheads. They use napalm, right? Why wouldn't they use nukes? I could think of no reason. They don't have them. Unless you want to believe the leaders of all these countries in the world, these crazy guys in Africa that go around killing the Christians in the churches. They just killed a church full of Christians the other day. They ran into a church to get protection from these Muslim terrorists. And, well, they went into a Christianity church. Didn't work. They captured them and then killed them. I don't know, it was 60 or 100 or something like that. This stuff happens in Africa rather regularly. They don't like talking about it. There's no Jews involved. They don't have nukes. So Netanyahu, did he say that? He probably did. They lie. They lie. They're all liars. This is Satan's the God of this age. The age isn't over till the appearing of Yeshua in the clouds. When that happens, the age is over. Then you got into with everlasting life, part of that next age. Okay, and then Satan's no longer God of this world. All right, but right now he is. So all the countries are run by Satan. And what is Satan? He's a murderer from the beginning and the father of lies. Matthew 13 talks about the tares in the wheat, and the tares are the children of the devil, of the evil ones, of the demons, okay? So they take the attributes of their father, and that means they're murderers and they lie. We, the children of God, when we get fulfilled, even before we're fulfilled, we take on the attributes of our father, which is not lying, and not being a murderer, and other things. Being merciful, respectful, honest, true, never telling lies, and things like that. Okay? And repenting if you make a mistake. Okay? I never had to ask forgiveness for anything. I had no reason to. That's what Trump said. When people are falling for Trump. Trump is not the Antichrist. He's not coming up out of the sea in Revelation 13 or anything. Trump is just another one of them. And he wants to get a tremendously high popularity in America because he's risking a lot of trouble from these sleeper agents. Now, the sleeper agent countries behind them, which I'm sure includes, but is not limited to, Iran, North Korea, China, Russia, and we're also told Hamas, Hezbollah, Al Qaeda, ISIS have agents in America. Okay, and once they get unleashed, they know that if America can retaliate, they will, and they know America has good war machines. And even the people that were involved with Biden didn't tell them, hey, we're going to do this with the illegals because we want to destroy America. No. So when they see this happening with civilians getting killed, like in Israel, they will freak out and, go after the sleeper agents. So, and they will go after the countries that supported the sleeper agents. So Trump is really afraid of this. And he knows he has to clean his military up and get the new leaders of the military seated in place, which I figure is 6 months. Trump's better than most. Maybe he could do it in 3 or 4 months. And then they got to start working the problem. But I don't think there's enough prophetic time. And America doesn't get out of this one. It says they tried to heal her, but she did not heal. Is that Trump trying to do that? Somebody said one day. Well, it could be. It could be. Trump's going to do the $5,000 stimulus check. It's already being worked on in Congress. I wouldn't be surprised if in a week or 10 days or something they have it ready and they start getting the checks mailed out. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if they'll give that money to everybody that gets Social Security or they'll just give it to people that have filed tax returns. And I don't know if people owe money to the IRS, if they'll give it to them or apply it to the debt. I don't know what they'll do. I have no idea. Trump does not like the IRS. He does not like the Federal Reserve. And I don't know what he'll do. He probably has every intention of getting rid of the IRS and running with the external revenue service collecting tariff money, which you'd pay for anyway. When they bring the foreign goods in, they put 25% on them, and if you want to buy it, you got to pay the 25%. But the saving grace here is if you don't buy foreign goods, you're not paying that tariff. So how does the government handle it with no income tax? I don't know. That could be a flaw that Trump has. So people go, I'm not buying that foreign car, I'm not buying that shirt, that perfume, those shoes, that baseball, that table, or that hat, whatever. They just buy from domestic. They don't have to pay the tariff, right? Then America's not getting a lot of tariff revenue. And it kills the income tax. There's no income tax coming in. What does he do? I don't know. He could be a problem, you see it? People are going to realize right away, hey, if I buy that shirt made in France, it's 25% tax. I just buy the one made in America and I don't pay the tax. But does anybody make shirts in America anymore? No. See the problem? A lot of items are not. There's nothing close to competitive in America, even with the 25% tariff added on. So that's a problem. What about tools, common tools? Walmart, for what, 40 years, has been selling garbage, crappy tools made in China and other countries for cheap prices. So if they bang it up 25%, they're still going to be competitive. The foreign countries may drop their own prices 10, 15%. So the 25% isn't at 15% price drop, it's really going to be like a 10% tax, and people may just say, what the heck, I'll buy it. You know, it's still better than the American product, and the American product's not there. So I'm sure that Trump worked these problems out well and knew what he was doing. And he probably has it figured out, but what Trump doesn't have figured out is people in the world are turning against America more. I mean, the EU was never against America. Now he's got the EU, he's got Canada and Mexico against him. He's got trouble. He's going to pull 20,000 soldiers out of Europe. He's telling them, you want them to stay there, or figure out a way to pay for them. You know what it costs them to keep 20,000 soldiers in Europe? A fortune. They're not going to pay for it. They want a free ride. What Trump is doing is called isolationism, and that's when America was much better off. But I think Trump would have done a much better job if he tried to put the country into isolationism over a period of 4 years, and slowly, but no, he's in a hurry. He's scared. His military is not the way he wants it to be. And he's got too many illegals, including sleeper agents in America, to sleep well at night. He's got beaucoup problems, and he's going to have to deal with them. So I'm sorry I dozed off before. Didn't even realize I did it. I don't know what happened. I got up around 4 in the morning and was working. I guess I got myself did too much work before the broadcast. I got to watch that. Netanyahu is not anybody I really care for. He's wanted us to give Gaza back, and we did. Now look what happened. Nobody goes in Israel and says, why do you ever give Gaza back, Ben? said, you're an idiot. Why should we listen to you today? You know, nobody does that here. They're all enamored with Trump in Israel, by the way, just like America. Trump's going to turn on Israel, too. You watch. You watch. We don't hear a word from Biden, do we? Nothing. He just drifted off into the wilderness. I guess he's decided politics and him don't match. He's just gone away. So we wait and we watch, but don't think Trump, cursed be the man that trusteth in man, and that's what people are doing. Trump is not driving people to God. You shall have no other gods before you. His government supports religious freedom. So their government wants to make sure you could be a Muslim, a Hindu, a Buddhist, an atheist, go to the Church of Satan and a million other churches, and they want to make sure they use the Constitution to guarantee these false churches with false teaching of false gods that are abominations to thrive in America. I'm wrong about that? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Is he doing a war on drugs? Yeah, it looks like it. What drugs? I guess the hard drugs, fentanyl and things like that. It looks like he is. Probably is. Is he cracking down on these lifestyles? No, all he's doing is saying there's only two sexes, the male and the female. He's not saying that you can't have a male with a male or a female with a female. I have never heard him say that. So that's okay with him, right? He's trying to bear down on abortions. That's good. There is some gun control he's loosening up, but it's not the important stuff right now. He's just getting started, probably the case. Pistol braces, the stuff that's not really important to the gun community. He's four things going after, and he's turning the Justice Department loose on alcohol, tobacco, and firearms for the changes they made in years with Biden. They didn't go back 35 or 50 years or something. They just went back to the Biden time for you. So there's some things in there. But maybe he's just trying to throw a bone to the gun control people, and it's not going to really ever come to pass in a big way. Or more likely, he's just getting started. Remember, letting America arm freely makes life harder for the sleeper agents because they're not American. So let me check real quick in the news to see what's cooking with the hostage exchange, which should be ongoing. It should be maybe finished. Let's take a look real quick and see how that went. I should be able to get info on that right now. The Hamas they did turn them over to the Red Cross, and they're like not yet in Israel. They'll usually get in a helicopter. They all go to a hospital for an assessment. They usually meet the family in the hospital. No, I imagine that we'll have more. It's gone through. They're giving the hostages up. Netanyahu's not talking about anything with the second phase of the ceasefire. This is going to bring war. Because he's just not going to negotiate. And then that's it. Then Netanyahu follows obligation. They did phase one. He gave back thousands of crazy terrorists to Hamas like a living idiot. Why Israel puts up with a guy that does this is insane, but they do. And then we get a certain amount of hostages back, and then it's going to be back to war with Hamas. And I don't know what exactly Egypt's going to do if Israel stays out of the Sinai Peninsula, doesn't try to drive the Gazan population into Egypt. I imagine Egypt will just stay still. If Israel goes into the Sinai Peninsula, it'll be a fight with Egypt. Do I think we'll have a fight with Egypt? Yes, prophetically we will. Will we have a fight with Jordan? Yes, we will. Iraq? Yes, we will. Syria? Yes, we will. War with Lebanon? Yes, and Gaza too. We're going to have another round of wars, I guarantee you. It's in the prophecy. It's coming. I can't imagine I'm missing this in prophecy. So we're going to have it again. Okay? And Netanyahu appears to be headed on the path to war. He's not even, we don't hear a word about phase two. Phase two requires the full withdrawal of Israel forces out of Gaza. And then after we're fully taken out, which is suicide, after we do that, the Hamas will dole the hostages out to us to make sure we stay out for years. They'll keep doling them out. So he's not doing this. Trump is saying annihilate. He wants to annihilate Gaza. And I don't see anything else but a war on Gaza coming very soon. Now, if Netanyahu drops those MK-84 bombs, they make a blast wave that destroys a mile area. I don't know how wide it is, maybe a quarter of a mile, half a mile, I don't know. He very well may drop one or two in Gaza to motivate them, or three or four to leave Gaza altogether. Then comes the fight with Egypt. Where are we going to put them? Send them to America? No. Where are you going to put them? You have no place to put them. Syria won't take them. I don't think they would take them. Maybe. I don't know. They need money, and maybe they would. I don't know. For money or something. Who knows? Jordan won't take them. They said they'll attack Israel. Egypt said they'll attack Israel. Iraq is pretty estranged, crackpot country. That's not going to work. Lebanon, there's nowhere to put them. Where are you going to put them? Cyprus? Trump had a good idea to put them in Saudi Arabia, but Saudi Arabia didn't think it was a good idea at all. So, war comes. Probably days away. I mean, we could wake up one morning and then, it says, oh, we did a phase two with Gaza, but yeah. Trump's not saying do a phase two. So that's what I got for today. So please pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing. Pray for our finances, pray for our health and our animals and pets that are all rescues. Be happy, healthy, and whole. And like I told you, the rain business never happened. We're supposed to get some massive storm. Let's take a look at what the forecast is, see if it changed again, which I seriously doubt, but let's look. Cold for sure. No, going through all the way to the morning, no rain. And tomorrow's going to be a very sunny day, but cold. It's only going to go to 52. Monday, sunny day mostly, only 52. Tuesday, full sun, 56. Wednesday, full sunny day, 59. Thursday, that's when we'll come out of it, 62. Friday, 66. Saturday, 65. Sunday, 67. Then Monday, 69. We're going to be out of winter. We got a few days to shape this cold weather with, and then we'll be out of winter. So we bought more firewood for our wood burner, and we keep the place pretty warm. We got enough to go at least a week, maybe 10 days. We didn't buy a big amount, we bought a small amount. So we got enough for, I would say, I'm sure it's 7 to 10 days. That'll get us out of it. That'll get us out of it. Easy. Because that really gets you warm. Beulah likes to sleep in front of it. She'll just sit there for hours. The mommy dog, she got double layered fur, and it's probably about that long now, and she's very comfortable away from it. She doesn't mind being cool. That's way too hot for her. So it goes into my room, because the door open, it gets in there. But I've been using a radiator heater because it gets so cold at night with my thick blanket. And so please pray for better videos. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and still waiting for that document in the mail. Pray for that, and I don't know what else. That's about it. So I will keep you posted as things develop. I suggest you keep close tabs on Telegram anyway, because things are liable to break out in the next few days. As the Hamas realizes there's no serious negotiation on phase 2, they realize the war's coming back to them, and they probably will try to fight preemptively if they have anything to fight with. And the Houthis might join them, or Lebanon and Hezbollah. I don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to come back to war, I'm sure. Okay, the siege progresses, guys, and I send my shalom to all those, my Shabbat shalom, Mashiach, and you might want to give this a like if you like it. If you want to hear about things happening in Israel you don't want to miss, you might want to subscribe. Remember, you're going to see the determining factors bringing on end times prophecy starting in Israel and the Middle East, not in Europe or Asia. Okay, kids, I'm out. Thank you.